We all know how hard it can be for an introvert to learn a new language. So in just a few months, I went from being an introverted English learner, unable to even speak to myself in English, to a fluent and confident English speaker, making videos on YouTube to help others without living in another country. And I still remember how awkward I felt when people would ask me, "Why are you so quiet? Why are you so shy?" And I knew that if I didn't change, I would never reach my full potential. So when I started learning English, I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't let this shy, nervous version of myself hold me back anymore. Because let's be honest, trying to learn a new language and while you stay quiet and unconfident is literally a recipe for disaster. And I think you can relate with that because you don't want to be that quiet person who is always too nervous to speak up in English. You want to be confident, you want it to sound natural and to actually enjoy conversations. So in this video, I want to share with you exactly what I did to leave that version of myself behind and transform my confidence while I was learning English. And don't worry, this is not about changing who you are, it's about becoming a better version of yourself. Because I'm still an introvert at heart, but I've learned to use that to my advantage and still sound confident. And by the way, you can use this to become a confident person not only in English but in every aspect of your life. So first I want to share with you a very short clip of my first video that I ever recorded in English. I never posted this before. I think I recorded this 6 months before I started this channel. It's cringy, it's awkward. I couldn't even look at the camera for like 2 seconds. But I'm gonna share with you because I want you to know that it's possible that you can do it because I did. So this is the first video that I ever recorded, a very short clip of it. Hello. Oh my god, man. Hey, this is my first video. I'm just recording with my phone, nothing, just my phone, and that's it. So I'm starting to make YouTube videos about English learning. I want to tell my story and tell people how I learn English, and I want to really emphasize of how English learning and learning English can be a really important thing in your life. So you might think that it's not even that bad, but you can see the difference, right? I sound much more confident when I talk in English now. One of the biggest lessons that I learned that made me have this transformation is that I understand that my lack of confidence wasn't just about English. It was deeper than that. I wasn't confident in any part of my life. So that carried over into learning English. At first, I didn't realize this, and most people don't realize this, but I thought that my shyness and fear of speaking in English were just part of learning a new language. But then I noticed that I felt the same way in any other situations too. Like when I had to talk to new people, or even when I wanted to try something unfamiliar. There was a lot of things in my life that were making me feel insecure. So I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't socializing much, I spent too much time on my phone and social media, and I had a bunch of unhealthy habits. All of these things added up and made me feel unconfident in general. And when I started learning English, all of these insecurities channeled into my ability to speak confidently. It wasn't just about learning a new language. My overall mindset and lifestyle were affecting my progress. I still remember one day in school, I was always that quiet kid, that one who never spoke up in class. Even though I had friends, I kept to myself most of the time. So one day, one of my professors decided to ask me a question in front of the entire class. I felt my face turn bright red. I was completely embarrassed. I couldn't even answer the question properly because I was so nervous. That day stuck with me for a long time. I realized that my lack of confidence wasn't just about English or that one moment in class. It was because I hadn't been taking care of myself or building confidence in other areas of my life. It was only when I started to change my lifestyle that I began to build real confidence. I started to exercising more, especially cardio in the morning, that helped me clear my mind and feel more energetic throughout the day. I made sure I was sleeping better, drinking more water, and staying away from social media, which had been a big distraction. I also work on my social skills. Even in my native language, I was working on my social skills. I would force myself to have conversations with people I wouldn't normally talk to, just to get out of my comfort zone. And little by little, I started proving to myself that I could improve in different areas of my life, and that confidence carried over into learning English. So the lesson here is that you cannot just focus on one thing, like learning English, and expect to become confident overnight. If you have other bad habits or insecurities, those will affect your progress. Confidence is built realistically. It's about improving all parts of your life, not just one. And when you do that, you will start to see improvements in how you speak, the way you carry yourself in English, as well as in everything else. Another very important part and a big step that I had to realize to become more confident was understanding why I felt so unconfident in the first place. And this was not easy because it required a lot of self-reflection, and honestly, it wasn't always comfortable, but it was necessary. And I had to dig deep and figure it out what was holding me back. And for the longest time, I thought I was just naturally shy or an introvert, but the truth is, no one is born unconfident. It's something that develops over time. Often because of our experiences and the way we think about ourselves. I realized that a lot of my lack of confidence came from a fear of making mistakes. And most people are like this, I think. I was always so worried about saying the wrong thing or sounding stupid that I ended up in not saying anything at all. This fear wasn't just about English. It was something I carried with me in many areas of my life. I started to realize that this perfectionism was making me feel worse. Every time I thought about speaking English, I imagined all the possible ways I could mess up, and the fear kept me silent. But what I didn't realize at the time was that mistakes are part of the learning process. They are not something to be afraid of. They are something to embrace. But it took a while for me to understand that. So I started to ask myself some questions that are really tough to answer. Why I'm so afraid of making mistakes? Why do I care so much about what other people think? Why do I always assume the worst will happen? By reflecting on these questions, I began to see that my fears were largely irrational. Most of the time, people don't care if you make a mistake when you speak in English. In fact, they often admire you for trying. And if you just stop to think about how stupid a person has to be to make fun of you, to judge you in a negative way, you will realize that most people are not like this. And I can speak from experience that when I speak with native speakers, or even when I speak with people that know more than me, that are non-native speakers, they admire me for learning the language and to communicate with them in English. And it's just a respectable interaction all the time. And once I understood where my fears were coming from, it became easier to let them go. I realized that my lack of confidence wasn't a permanent part of who I was. It was something I could change. And as soon as I accepted that mistakes were okay, I started to feel a lot more comfortable with speaking English. It wasn't something fast. It wasn't something that happened fast, but over time, the fear started to disappear and confidence took its place. One of the most important things that I ever did was to create a system that worked for me. When you are learning something new, especially as an introvert, it's easy to follow what everyone else is doing. You see all these people giving advice like, just practice speaking every day. But for some of us, that can feel overwhelming. It's not always about someone else's roadmap. It's about finding what works for you. For me, I knew that jumping straight into conversations with strangers would have been too much. I would have gotten overwhelmed and probably quit very easily. So I created a step-by-step system that allowed me to build confidence gradually at my own pace. The first step in my system was something called silent shadowing. I would listen to native speakers like in podcasts or videos and repeat everything they said quietly to myself. They helped me get used to the sounds, the rhythm of the language without the pressure of having to say anything out loud right away. And once I got comfortable with shadowing, I moved to the next step, recording myself. This was a game changer because it allowed me to hear how I sounded and make improvements without the fear of being judged by someone else. I would record myself reading passages, practicing pronunciation, and even just speaking freely about random topics. It felt weird at first, of course, especially when you are introvert and you don't have a lot of confidence. But over time, it helped me become more confident in how I sounded. The next step in my system was to practice speaking with trusted friends. I didn't jump straight into group conversations because I knew that would make me too anxious. Instead, I found 1 or 2 close friends who were supportive, and I would practice speaking English with them. This way, I had a safe environment to make friends and make mistakes and improve. And over time, I built enough confidence to start speaking in large groups or even with strangers. And I pretty much record videos for thousands of people to watch. And I'm fine, I don't feel anxious anymore. The key was creating a system that worked for my personality and my learning style. I didn't force myself into situations that made me feel uncomfortable, but I also didn't stay in my comfort zone forever. I created a gradual progression that allowed me to build confidence at my own pace, and that's what helped me succeed. The final step, and maybe one of the most important ones, was changing my beliefs about what confidence actually means. For the longest time, I thought that confidence was something you were born with or not. I believed that confident people were naturally outgoing and extroverted. And because I wasn't like that, I thought I could never be truly confident. But I was wrong. Confidence is not about being the loudest person in a room or always being the center of attention. Confidence is about being comfortable with who you are and trusting yourself, even if you are quiet or introverted. It's about having a belief that you are capable no matter what challenges come your way. Sometimes you have this belief, like I did, that you cannot do it, but you just have to reinforce the idea that a lot of people who are similar to you succeeded like I did, and that proves to you that you can do too, because if I did, you also can. I'm a human being, I'm not special. And one of the first steps is to believe and then work on it. That way you can accomplish almost anything in your life. And after all the things that I told you, now you understand that I was very insecure, maybe even more insecure than you are right now. So that means it's gonna be easier for you. And just to make sure that you understood how I went from an insecure English learner to a confident English speaker, what I did was I changed every aspect of my life, not only one. I understood why I felt unconfident. I created my own system and I changed my beliefs. All these things that I did made me feel more confident, and over time with practice and consistency, I became confident. And you can too. And I believe in you. But of course, in order to be more confident, you have to practice, you have to be consistent. And the only way you can do that is that if you know how to do these things. So I have a full guide on how to speak English with confidence. You can click here to watch it right now, and I see you very soon.